Sick of sitting at your job, daydreaming about the life that you would have if you'd won that big jackpot? Do you want to design a life for yourself that you don't need to take a vacation from? Do you have a vision for your life that you just don't know how to make a reality? Next Exit Your Destiny is a witty, comical, yet straightforward guide that gives you common sense, easy to follow steps to make the life you dream of the life that you live. Get off of Unfulfilled Street, Unhappy Way, and Sunday Night Blues Boulevard and take the next exit towards your destiny today. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Dream Building 101. I am your host, Dr. Ebony Potts, and I am the author of Next Exit Your Destiny, Taking the Road Towards the Life of Your Dreams. On this channel, we speak to individuals who are all on their paths to fulfillment in different ways, be it whether they're in the arts, whether they are in sports, whether they're educators. We try to make sure that we get to everyone so that you can be inspired to pursue your own dreams. So I have the pleasure today of interviewing a young lady I met a few decades ago, actually in high school. We were in high school together for a brief moment, but she made an impact on me and many other individuals there. She came to the school in a way that you don't very often see. She knew exactly what she wanted to do way back when she came to the school. And within a few weeks of being at our school, she was directing our Black History Month program. She was phenomenal and still is. And she is known to many as the name by her name, Onyx Keesha, but I know her as Miss Keesha Gibson. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello. Talk about a trip down memory lane.
We have Miss Onyx Keesha here for today and our guest today. So welcome. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, I am super honored and excited to have this conversation.
Yes. So she and I, before, we're talking about some of the things that she's been doing. She's kind of been this lady does it all. Really does it all, but I'm going to let her tell more about herself than me. So why don't you tell those who are not familiar with you and who you are, what you do, what titles you hold. I know the list is long, but how about you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Surely. Well, my name is Onyx Keesha, and I am a producer and director of stage and film. And I have been a full-time entrepreneur since high school. I believe that the arts heal. I believe that providing creative opportunities for both youth and adults helps to empower the community. And so I'm really dedicated to that. One of the things that I absolutely love is to work with other women and just to help women find that power inside of them to be unapologetic, to live their dreams. I want to help them tell their stories. And so at the end of the day, whether it is a book, whether it is a play, whether it is a film, it always comes back down to that sisterhood and that woman empowerment.
Very, very, very good. You are one of the few people that I have encountered in my lifetime who was unapologetic, full-fledged, really working within your gift since I met you. So, like I said, it's not very often that you find someone that knows who they are, what their gifts are, and is really working through that at such a young age. So so my usual question at this time is, why don't you tell people what your path was once you got out of high school? How did you end up where you are now? But your path started well before you and I even met. So why don't you tell and speak to that?
So one of the things that I really want to stress is speaking life into your children and the children around you, because of, now, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of areas in my childhood that were difficult. My father struggled with drug addiction, and we had a difficult time. Actually, by the time I got to Scotch Plains Family High School to graduate, there had been a good 7 years that I wasn't in the school system because of the issues that were going on in my home, and we were moving around. So I came back to Scotch Plains after going through a really difficult time. But even though there were a lot of rocky moments growing up, my parents always instilled in us that we can and we are required to do what is in our hearts to do. I say I had the most beautiful dysfunctional childhood, and I say that to say a lot of times people compare themselves to others and they're like, well, I had this going on in my life, so I couldn't XYZ. But no, my childhood was not all roses. However, the power of speaking life into your children and the children around you matter. I did not have a doubt at 6 or at 16 that I was able to live my dreams. There was no doubt, because it was such a huge part of our conversation in our home. My mom used to say, I don't care if you want to be a garbage man or if you want to be the president. So my path really started with constant affirmations and constant conversation about living my dreams, no matter what, even when it gets hard.
Well, that's phenomenal, because a lot of people don't get that. My book is about exactly what you're speaking about having faith, about sowing those seeds, about believing in yourself. And then once you start on that path, what steps do you need to take? Because you were fortunate enough, no matter what was going around you, you still have parents that were sowing into you. And even though you had parents that were sowing into you, I know that you hit bumps and you got bruises along the way. And we all at times need reminders, because life beats you up. I don't care whether you have you were with a silver spoon or whether you didn't have a spoon. Life has a tendency to kind of knock you sometimes, and sometimes senseless, to where you don't know which way is up. And to have a book like the one that I put out, and to listen to women like you, and to follow even some of the other interviews that I've had, and just making sure that you are starting to just recentering yourself around what are your goals, what is it that you want to do, and just continuing to pour into yourself is necessary, even if you have parents like you had or are fortunate enough to have, because like I said, life at times, it can be a doozy,
Right. Absolutely. One of the things that I want to stress is that that's why it's important that we speak life into other people, because not everybody has, parents or siblings who are able to encourage them. So as women, like once we get it, like once we understand that it really is all about mindset and your faith walk, then I feel like we're required to talk to young girls. We're required to, whenever we show up in a space, to be positive, to be encouraging. Because one thing that we may say could change the entire path of another woman or a young girl, especially if they've never been poured into.
Tell us about a challenge that you faced along your path, because I speak to that as well in my book about turn back moments. We all have those. You have those moments where you're like up against a wall. And, I've been privy to, a moment that you've had more recently and how you've overcome. But I'm sure that you've had that moment and others. How did you overcome that moment? What did you learn from the experience? And what do you wish that you knew before embarking on your path and perhaps going through those moments?
I found myself in this very interesting spot because prior to this, I had already dug myself out of this situation where I went through losing my marriage and my home and my car and my career, in the sense that I didn't feel connected anymore. And I spent a lot of time working on that. So I had built myself back up to the woman that I was proud to see in the mirror. I had learned to love myself and not be so affected by the losing of my relationship. So I did all of this, right? I also grew my business in a way that I never had before, and I was um, working on Broadway, and I was sitting and talking to stars I had seen on TV, and then boom, cancer came. And I was literally paused. And I did not know if I was able to get through it. And so I was diagnosed, and the day I had my cancer surgery, my dad passed away. The day
Oh, wow.
before. So then I had to embark on my journey of 20 weeks of chemo and 9 weeks of radiation, and then the healing part. Because what they don't talk about with any cancer is you don't have to just heal your body. You have to really be able to heal your emotions, because it's very difficult. And so I didn't think I was going to get past that. And I know it seems like a huge challenge, but no matter what your hill is, it is significant to your journey. The thing that got me through it, let me tell you, and it's like, I don't want to be cliche, but I have to just be honest, was faith, was God. My I went from, of course, understanding and loving God and having a pretty good faith walk, to being put in a situation where the only thing I could rely on was the understanding that all is well always. And I tell people that didn't mean that I was sure I was going to make it out, because I wasn't. I didn't get cancer and like, I'm going to beat this. No. What I knew is that no matter what happened, it was supposed to happen, and I could handle it and my family could handle it. And so I went inside and I found this inner strength that I never knew that I had, and I pushed through. And I tell you, today, almost 2 years to the date of my diagnosis, I am so grateful for the experience, because the woman that I am today because of it is someone I am truly proud of.
Well, I'm proud of you as well because, just watching your journey. My mom also had breast cancer. She did not document it the way
Mhm.
that you have documented it, and the way that you have documented your journey, the way that you have talked about your emotions, the way that you just really have put it all out there, I know is inspirational to the people that are watching you as it is to me.
Oh,
And I know that, just talking about your journey, I'm sure it's therapeutic for you, but it is also encouraging to others out there that may be going through something similar, that even if they are not being diagnosed with cancer or a health issue, just watching other people push
yeah.
through, that was encouraging to me at different moments in my life. Just like, okay, if this person can do it, then I can do it, and if this person's faith is strong enough to pull them through, then just this little string of faith that I have has to have some power,
Yeah.
and that's inspirational to anyone, and it should be inspirational, and it will help other people. So thank you
Oh,
for documenting your journey and talking about it and being so vocal.
you're welcome. That always makes me so emotional. And sorry to hear about your mom. Now that I've experienced cancer, I'm so emotionally connected to the people around the person going through the experience, because it's really, sometimes we're so focused on the person who has cancer, but those who love that person, ooh, it is. I saw it every time I looked in my son's eyes. I saw it every time my mom said, "Are you okay?" So I know that it is really a difficult journey, and sometimes, you get lost. Like, people don't acknowledge the fact that you also went through a cancer journey, even though the disease wasn't in your body. In regards to being transparent, I will tell you, Ebony, when I first got the diagnosis, I said, I'm not telling anybody. I'm just going to disappear, for a year, and I'll come back, and, I'm going to do this journey in private. And God said no. And I was fighting him at first. Like, what? I don't want to do this.
Right.
But he said no. And so I just started to document it and talk about it. And, even when I felt insecure with my bald head showing up, and it was healing for me, but the women who have reached out to me because of it feeds my soul so much. I'm so glad that I was obedient.
Yes. Thank you again on their behalf. So let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about more about what you do in general, and what do you love about what you do? What is the most challenging aspect of what you do?
Okay, so I absolutely love my career. Acting and producing has just always been my life. I don't know anything different. Um, One of the challenges for me actually is dealing with actors, which is so crazy because,
Yeah,
because
I
that's,
can understand.
man. And so a lot of times, so I tell people, I'm a businesswoman, and my business just happens to be the arts, as opposed to artists. That's a completely different experience when your heart is of an artist, because that comes with a lot of stuff. A lot of insecurity, a lot of passion, a lot of laser focus. So many artists are like, they are a genius, and that comes with a lot. So sometimes in my position, especially as a producer, which my career has really evolved to. I started out, acting, and spent many years directing. And so producing is what I love, and that is a lot of what I do now. So as a producer, I have to be the one to say no a lot. I have to be the one to and I'm not just talking about my actors, my directors, just creatives, and so I love them, but it's also challenging. I think another thing that is challenging is, so a big part of my business is teaching. So I have right now, my performing arts school is virtual, but I have a performing arts school. We have locations in New Jersey and Georgia and in Las Vegas. So I'm able to really see that spark come alive in children, when we're teaching, filmmaking or acting or writing. You see that spark where it's like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. The challenge comes in with my adult students, because they have been so jaded or have been taught that they cannot live their dreams. So in class, they are alive, they are passionate, but they leave doubting that they could really do this. And so that is challenging. It always hurts my heart a little, because I'm like, you can absolutely have the life that you desire now, so that's a big challenge. And of course, in this industry, we are still very underrepresented. And so I'm all about telling stories, empowering people to tell stories, building digital storytellers, to tell their own stories, but to see how we are still underrepresented, or there are roles out there that don't show the fullness of us, every aspect of us as women of color, can be a little frustrating.
Definitely, as a consumer of film and plays and art, it's the same for me as a consumer, because there are different aspects of every culture, of
Right.
every type of human being, and you know it's it's difficult as a consumer, especially as a parent, because you want your children to be able to see the beauty in us, just like they get to see it in other people. The ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and the in between of all of us is what makes us human. And when you take part of that away from a particular culture, and it's not just African Americans, it's the same with Asians and how they're portrayed in our media. And it's the same as, how the LBG, sorry, I'm gonna mess up all the alphabet, but how certain, just all of the different aspects of who
Yeah.
we are as people and as human beings, representing the good, the bad, and the ugly. You dehumanize them, and you take something away from who those particular individuals are. So I definitely understand your struggle, because it's a struggle for us as
Yeah.
consumers as well, to make sure that we are seeing the full breadth of who we are as people,
Mm,
no matter who you are and no
right.
matter what your background is.
Absolutely.
If you could tell or speak to someone who is just getting on their path, and I know that you do this at your school,
Mhm.
but just if you could speak to the audience that you're speaking to right now, someone who's just getting on their path towards their best life, towards fulfillment for them, what would you say to them?
I would say, start with self. And that doesn't mean, uh, crystals and meditation or going on a girls' trip, like all these things that I feel like we see out there that help women to find self. When I say start with self, I mean have a really honest conversation about what you want and why you want it, and be unapologetic in that space. If you say, if your goal is to buy a Range Rover, okay, because I want to keep it on that level, you need to have a conversation with yourself on why this is important to you, and not be afraid. Sometimes our self-talk can be filled with justifications and excuses. If it is simply because I love the way it looks and I want to floss, say that, because you can only create the life you want when it's rooted in truth. And so that's a very materialistic example, but it's the same principle. If you say, I want to go out there and I want to open a organic, natural hair care line, right? You have to start with being really honest about why. Yes, all the pretty stuff, because I want to heal, I want to help people, all of that. But there's so many other reasons. I want to be the first millionaire in my family. I want to help people who look like me. Whatever it is, be honest and start with self. And then from there, that tree of prosperity is going to grow. But it has to be in like honest, real soil. And that starts with self. As you spoke about earlier, as women, like we are pulled in so many different directions, and we lose our sense of self, our identity, to being a mom, to being a wife, to being a teacher, to being a provider, to being whatever it is, all these labels that are put on us, right? That we forget us. And so my advice, if you're starting on that journey, have those conversations with self. Be honest, be real with you, so that you can really start to execute at the level that you need to. Because if you're executing from a place of, well, it's because I should, or it's because it's expected of me, it's always going to falter. And that's the
That's
advice. That's what I would
that's
tell myself.
that's that's great advice. That is great advice. And even if you have to have that conversation in the mirror, because maybe you're not, maybe you have to kind of figure out what the truth is for yourself. Start in the mirror, start in your bathroom mirror, and talk to you, talk to God.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're not comfortable. Maybe it's too raw for you to have that conversation with someone else. Maybe you really need to have it a few times to really get to the root of what it is for you. But that's phenomenal advice for anyone who really is, working on getting to where they really want to be. So thank you for that.
You're
Anything
welcome.
else you want to add or any questions for me?
Well, first of all, I have such a huge respect for anyone who writes. I think that we all have a story to tell. We all have a journey to share. And a lot of times we don't um, move forward and complete a book or a novel or a self help book to make sure that we are truly empowering the world. So, like, first of all, I just want to say congratulations. I think that is awesome. I would love to share your work with my tribe, So, yeah, so I just really want to say thank you. I think that is amazing. And this platform also, um, COVID is difficult for a lot of people. And it is challenging. However, opportunities like this, opportunities to really virtually share our stories, is something that was born out of it that I think is beautiful. So I definitely thank you for this platform and for having me on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you saying what you just said. The book, as I've said on interviews with other individuals, it was not something that I had planned. I was kind of, as we talk about, God kind of sows things into you. And, I was told to write, as I spoke before, like 20 years ago. And I was like, I'm not a writer. I don't write books. I'm an educator, or this, that. But, there's multi facets to who we all are. We are all multifaceted individuals. And, the book is just another way to educate individuals and to hopefully inspire people to go after what it is that God has for them, because it's different for everyone. And, this platform was born out of that as well, because, being an educator and having the background I have, I know that everyone doesn't learn in the same manner. So, having something, in text is great, but to have someone speak to you about, what you also may be going through, or someone next to you may be going through, as an inspiration and a tie to the book, is something that, again, was not something that I saw coming. If someone, like I said before, has told me I would be doing YouTube, I'd be like, no, that's not, that's not who I am. It's not what I do. It's not what I'm interested in. But God had another plan. And I'm just trying to be obedient. So thank you
Awesome.
for being here and telling your story. Where can anyone who is watching get in contact with you? Do you have a web address, Instagram? What kind of projects do you have going on? If you would speak to us about that, that would be great.
Absolutely. Well, I can be found on everything social media at Onyx Keesha, ONYXKEESHA, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Facebook.
And what is your YouTube channel called?
Onyx Keesha.
Okay.
And so you can see some of my earlier film work on YouTube right now. Most of my most recent work is either being shopped or in the film festival circuit. But I have a lot of work on there. And I'm really open. So, like, jump in my inbox, in my DMs, slide in the DMs, ask me whatever you want. Like, I really try to be open. I really try to give as much advice as I can give. I most recently started a movement called Faith It.
Okay.
So instead of, don't fear it, don't fake it, faith it. And so this community is just all about um, teaching women specifically how to harness the faith that they need to propel themselves forward. So I have a lot of stuff happening with that. I have a book called Fierce Faith and Abundance coming out in February.
Awesome.
And just, I want to, my biggest thing, Ebony, is that we can show up fully as ourselves. God doesn't require us to be fragmented. And a lot of times we feel like we have to remove God from our certain aspects of our life, but God is there when we're making love, just like God is there when we're praying. It is important that as a believer, you are able to stand in that there's no shame about you, because when we have that shame, then we cannot be authentic. And that's just my biggest thing. Like,
Well, thank you. Thank you. We will make sure that we put all of that information in the comments. And again, everyone, if you like what you've seen, you like what you've heard, and you want to hear more, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. We'll also put information on Miss Onyx Keesha's channel in the comments. I hope that everyone has a wonderful day and be inspired and go out and get what God has for you. Bye bye, everybody.